Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm the Town Supervisor, Nick D'Alessandro, and today we're having an information session on loans for small businesses. Today we're joined by our local banking professional, Brian Waldron, from the Hudson Valley Credit Union. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Also joining us is two of our town board members, our Deputy Supervisor Peter Cassidy and Councilman Emmanuel Marinaro. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having this important meeting.
Thank you. The Deputy Supervisor and the Councilman are both small business owners, so this does affect them as well. Also joining us is our East Fishkill Economic Development Director, Michael O'Brien. Him and my assistant, Gina, put this together. Thank you both very much for doing that. I appreciate it.
Thank you for...
And also thank you to our police department for distributing the flyers out to all the local businesses this past week. It was important to get the businesses this information so that if they had any questions or concerns, they can ask or they could call in or email us, and we have had a few of them already. Just a little background here. With the stay-at-home orders in place across the United States, revenues for the nation's over 30 million small businesses, about 8,500 here in Dutchess County, have pretty much dried up. Many businesses had to lay off employees, and to aid these companies and their employees during this COVID-19 crisis, the Small Business Administration, the SBA, is offering small businesses a forgivable loan up to $10 million each, and that is to cover payroll and other costs. It's called the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, the loan, and is part of the $2 trillion Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act. They're designated $349 billion for the PPP alone. And I believe that they are trying to extend that too. Brian will give us more information on that in a moment. The loans are featured, they feature actually streamlined application process, less documentation, and fewer restrictions, if you could believe it. And Brian will definitely go through that as well when we get to him. Small businesses with fewer than 500 employees may be eligible. This includes all small businesses, sole proprietors, S-Corps, C-Corps, LLCs, independent contractors, self-employed people, and non-for-profits. In addition to some non-for-profits, tribal groups and veteran groups are eligible as well. Restaurants and hospitality businesses may qualify if they have fewer than 500 employees per location. The federal government's effort to help the small businesses has resulted in these generous terms for the PPP loans. Borrowers can receive 2.5 times their monthly payroll costs that they incur during the year before the date of the loan is made. So for example, if you have an average payroll in the last 12 months of $10,000, you may borrow up to $25,000. And the maximum a company can borrow is $10 million. The money can be used for payroll and no more than $100,000 per annual employee, including benefits and sick leave and insurance premiums as well, and taxes on compensation. Up to 25% of the loan may be used to cover businesses' mortgage interest, rent, utilities, and interest on pre-existing loans. The covered expenses have to be incurred from February 15, 2020 through June 30th, 2020. Businesses have to be in business by that February 15, 2020 date. Any portion of the loan that is not forgiven will carry an interest rate of 1%. I think that's scaled, but Brian can weigh in on that also. Also, there's a 2-year payback period. However, the payments for the first 6 months can be deferred, and there's no prepayment penalty, which is great. They are talking about loan forgiveness. Borrowers will have their loans forgiven if they use the money for the designated expenses. They're eligible for loan forgiveness in the amount spent over the last 8 weeks after receiving the loan. The amount of forgiveness is equal to the total amount of payment for payroll, mortgage interest, rent, and utilities. It is anticipated that no more than 25% of the forgiven amount may be for non-payroll costs. So meaning mortgage, interest, rent, utilities like that, no more than 25%. To get the entire amount of the loan forgiven, the full-time employee headcount cannot decline. Let me repeat that. The full-time employee headcount cannot decline. Many businesses have asked that question. And nor can the employers cut the salary or wages through December 31st. This is an automatic deferment. Borrowers don't have to do anything to qualify for it. And pretty much you go to your banks, like our friend here on Zoom, he'll talk about the applications to the small businesses, the sole proprietors. Small businesses and sole proprietors started on April 3rd. Independent contractors, self-employed individuals, including freelancers, can apply beginning April 10th. That program started April 3rd and it ends June 30th. So please apply ASAP. There's been a huge amount of activity. I hear a tremendous amount. So please get in as soon as you can. Borrowers can apply to any SBA-approved lender, including participating commercial banks and credit unions. The whole list of them is provided for on the SBA website. There's no requirements for collateral or personal guarantees for this loan. Let me repeat that. There's no requirements for collateral or personal guarantees for the loan. So let's get to our guest, Brian. Can you give us a brief overview of what the business owner can expect and go through a few things probably that I did miss?
Yeah, well, thank you, Nick, and you did a great job explaining, so I don't really have too much more to cover, actually. That was good. I do need to reiterate just a couple of things. 75% of that loan must be used for payroll. I'm not sure how much verification they're going to be able to complete with these loans in order to forgive them, or what they're going to require for the banks or credit unions to do. But I do know that that will be a hot topic and a hot compliance issue with this loan. So please make sure that when this loan is funded, that 75% is used for payroll. The idea is to get people back to work. The other thing with that is I want to just reiterate that payroll cannot decrease, or headcount cannot decrease. You must, if you have people not working now, in order to fund the loan, you must bring them back to work and use this for most of it for payroll. So those are two really big items that I think are not quite easily found out there regarding these loans. So I just want to reiterate that. But the application process is very convoluted at this point. So I don't want to begrudge the SBA at all. They have put together a program that would normally take them about 2 years, and they put this together in about 2 weeks.
Wow. So
there are some growing pains and some learning pains as we go through this. And I do ask that if you have any questions where I'm not able to answer them, then maybe I can get your email address and I will provide the answers as soon as I am able. Just to kind of fill in some of the blanks there, in order to apply, the business owner should complete the SBA Form 2483. This is an application form. This can be found on Hudson Valley Credit Union's website. This can also be found on the SBA website. So I'll repeat the form again, SBA Form 2483. This form must be completed by any owner that owns 20% or more of that business, and they must make sure to include the addendums as requested in questions 3 and 4. So I know you don't have the form in front of you there, but just make sure you write down the addendums for questions 3 and 4 if applicable. Here's the big thing. We're not, as financial institutions, we're not quite sure yet what we need to gather from the borrower in order to process and fund this loan. But here's what I do know, that for an applicant to get the loan funded, we will need to see the most recent 4 quarters of payroll tax, which is your Form 941, including any income from unemployment tax filing reports, and it should include first quarter of 2020. If this is not available, we will need proof of salaries and payroll taxes paid for February of 2020. If you do not have employees, then the most recent annual payroll tax Form 940 will work. Payroll schedule for payroll incurred over the most recent 12-month calendar year must include and be totaled for each employee and should include the following: salaries, wages, commissions, and bonuses, cash tips or equivalents, vacation, sick and family leave, allowance for dismissal or separation, any group health benefits paid by the borrower, retirement benefits paid by the borrower, any payroll tax, and if the employee is not included in the U.S., you must remove them from the payroll schedule. I'm not sure if that's applicable for anyone there today, but just so you know. Please make sure that the number of jobs matches the number of employees on payroll for the most recent month. If different, please provide an explanation. As far as the application process, and we can, if you have any questions on those details, let me know. As far as the application process, there is a long line of applicants waiting. The credit union itself has over 500 applications already in place. We have about 150 new applications coming in per day.
Wow.
So back to Nick's point, if you are interested in this, please get with your financial institution as soon as possible to apply. I do know that the SBA and the federal government, part of their $2 trillion stimulus bill, set aside $349 billion. As of today, the most recent number I can find is that we've used about $150 billion. Initial projections thought this would be gone over the weekend, so I'm not sure if that's good or bad news, or if there's just a lot of pending applications as financial institutions try and work through this process. So there is about $200 billion left, and I have heard from the SBA director herself yesterday on a conference call I had with her that the Congress is prepared to ask for an additional $250 billion.
Wow.
So I do think this loan will last for some time. I do think we'll be able to serve most of the people in the community as we are able to process, but it is moving rapidly, so to at least get your application in. Now the problem is, even though I know the SBA website lists about 6 different lenders in the Hudson Valley that are offering these loans, and I have heard that some of them, for lack of better words, have tapped out, that they're no longer accepting, whether it's because they have too many applications or because they're just unsure how to actually close these loans right now, as we've not received final guidance from the SBA on actually how to fund the loan. So we are working towards that. So this is one of those, normally I know that banks and credit unions are pushing for borrowers to get documents in and pushing to close loans. In this situation, we're actually begging for you to bear with us in this process because we're just as unsure as you all are, and we're trying to help out as much as possible. With that, I can take any additional questions, or Nick, if there's anything that you want me to touch on specifically, I'd be happy to, but you did a great job in your summary. I just have to reiterate those points of the payroll, et cetera. Oh, the other thing I should mention is this loan does have a 2-year payback, if it's not forgiven. So even when you sign that loan note, please keep in mind that payment is going to look mighty hefty if you borrow $10 million, even at a 1% interest rate. So just be prepared for that, the sticker shock when you see it. However, I do suspect most of these to be forgiven. Again, what that process looks like, I'm not sure either. Does that require the actually send funds to the bank or credit union to pay that loan off?
Right. So we did have some questions. Michael, we had some questions come in, didn't we?
We did. The first question was, I think Brian was already touching on that, and it was which banks are participating in this. And I believe there's actually a website on the Dutchess County Chamber of Commerce that lists that. Is that correct?
Yes, that is my understanding, and also the SBA.gov does have a list of those institutions as well.
Beautiful. Next question was about commissions. A lot of people were saying that their employers are saying, well, during that 8-week period, since we'll still be largely quarantined, we won't be selling much, so the commissions are not part of this. Is there any guidance on how people should be getting commissions?
Well, what they have asked for is they have asked for any salary that included commissions in the past, or any commissions that would be forthcoming. But I do know that while we haven't received official guidance, they are asking people not to guesstimate any potential commissions lost. This is really just for those payroll pieces that are missing. But again, I don't have final guidance on that. I wish I did. I wish I could answer that question better. because to me, this is my impersonal interpretation, it does not sound like it's going to cover potential commission. Now, if the employee is 100% commission-based, I believe there's an average in there, but I'm waiting on final guidance from that. That actually is one of the questions I had into the SBA as of yesterday.
Just one question, and is with all the change that you're seeing, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, do you have an idea when you think it'll be somewhat finalized?
I would guesstimate that we should have everything finalized by the end of this weekend. I do know that the SBA is working around the clock. Most financial institutions are working around the clock. I can tell you, for example, our management team has been, I was on conference calls on Saturdays and Sundays trying to put in different processes to make sure this goes well. And then any changes, of course, as they come out, we're trying to get up to our website and immediately out to members of the community. But I do suspect that, after my call yesterday, I was on the call with the SBA director for about an hour and a half. I do believe some of this stuff is going to finally kind of subside and calm down. There were a lot of questions that financial institutions are asking. I think once they can get through that process, that they will have, what they're calling is, in government terms, of course, is an interim final guidance. So I think we'll get the official guidance sometime on Monday, and I'm hoping that'll ease some of the angst for everyone involved, including the financial institutions trying to help the community.
Wonderful. Given the deluge of applicants and the length of the queue, is there any advice coming from the lenders on how to monitor the progress of your application?
No, unfortunately, there's no way to monitor the progress on your application. I can tell you that, business loan officers who are processing these applications and getting approval are trying to move on them very quickly. Part of the requirement that we found out yesterday that once you receive the SBA approval number, you must fund that loan within 5 days. So assuming you sent in a completed application with all of your proper documents, I would assume that the bank or credit union, just based upon our averages, are averaging about 2 to 3 business days to actually get those applications input into the SBA system. Once they're input, we get an approval number back within a couple of seconds, and so from there, we're trying to get that paperwork out to the borrower right away. So, from time of application, as long as you have all the completed documents, you should be hearing back relatively soon.
Question was, again, and the theme of this meeting, and I think it's done a great job, is to make the business community aware of this program. The idea that says there were so many people who seem to not know about it, who really should be taking advantage of it. Who do you think should not participate in this?
Well, I don't think I would say that anyone should not participate in it. I mean, again, I think this is about getting people back to work. So, if you have employees that you've had to say, stay home or I don't have any work for you, these are the employees that we are trying to help. This is our Hudson Valley. This is our commitment to anyone who doesn't is out of work right now. And this is how we're trying to help, is by processing these loans. If you're missing income yourself, if you're a sole proprietor and you're working for yourself, this is exactly what this is there for. So I'm not sure that I would tell anyone not to apply. I think everyone should take full advantage. I mean, this is the free forgivable loan, and in a sense, free money from the government. Yes, taxpayers are footing the bill for that, but I do think that this is, about everyone kind of coming together and helping out our community.
Bob, just to piggyback on Michael's question with the bankers, who, if say they deal with the bank that isn't participating, do they have to have an account, say, with your bank? Say they don't have an account with you. Can they still come to you and apply for this?
That's a great question, and here's my long-winded answer to that. I'll try and make it as short as possible. So, due to the influx of applicants, we have had to narrow our band quite a bit. So, our first step is to help anyone who has a current business account with us. If you have a business account with us, you're kind of your applications are, I don't want to say the word being fast-tracked, but we're accepting those on right now. The second second band is going to be anyone who has a personal account with us, whether it be a savings account, savings and checking, or savings and a loan account. We are going to try and get you to open a business account as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and then process that loan. The reason you have to have a business account with the credit union is just because of our regulatory body, the state and NCUA. You have to have a business share with us in order to have a business loan. So we're trying to process it that way. The third step will be anyone who has been unable to be helped by their current financial institution, we want to help. I will tell you that I am, my team right now is on a conference call, and I'm actually getting text messages on updates on it. We're trying to get a system in place that automates this so it's very quick. My goal in this is to help anyone in the community who needs help, whether you have a current relationship with us or I do know that there are other institutions who are accepting applications and have now stopped. I know there are other smaller institutions that are just not accepting these applications at all. And so I'm working as diligently as possible to get a system in place. But you can apply, right now, I think most institutions have said that, even Bank of America said, if you don't have an account with us, we can't help you. But I think everyone's going to get to the point where we're going to try and help, and that really is the goal in this. I will encourage you all, if your institution, and this is not a plug for the credit union, but if your institution is not accepting these applications, to check our website, which is www.hvcu.org. Check often. We do have an FAQ section on this, and as soon as we are able to accept non-current members, we will certainly let you know on that website. We are updating that daily with all sorts of questions related to COVID-19 and for our members, but also non-members alike.
So on a question on retaining, I have a question here from a local business owner in Hopewell. They have a question about employees that they must be retained. So on their last year's payroll, they had 5 full-time employees. Now, at the beginning of the year, 2 of them, not to any fault of theirs, left. 1 retired and 1 quit. So now they're going to show that old payroll schedule with 5, but they're going to be then saying that only 3 are working, but they didn't lay them off. So they should still. What's the process here, Brian?
Along with that payroll schedule that you provide, please, on a separate sheet of paper, type out a very, comprehensive explanation on why that does not match. So, for example, if you had a person leave, just, quit and turn in their notice, then certainly just make sure you document that. I would document, personally why they left, where they're going. If you have a copy of that termination notice, I would hang on to that. I'm not sure you need to submit it with your application process. Again, I'm just trying to help out on the back end. If you're asked to prove anything to get this, I think you should hang on to every piece of documentation you have as to prove why that number does not match. I do believe the SBA will, again, I don't work for the SBA. These are questions that they were asked but weren't able to answer yesterday until they have additional guidance. But I believe you'll be okay. And the reason for that is, you have the explanation there. So, but just documentation is everything at this point for the business owner.
Excellent, thank you. Michael, did you have more questions as well?
No, just one personal question, and that is yesterday, Brian, as we were talking earlier, the Federal Reserve was talking about doing some more quantitative easing to buy up the loans that have already been extended, so to give the banks more money to do. Do you foresee any kind of slowdown when the banks don't have enough money yet, and that all of a sudden that will kick in, or what's your expectation along those lines?
I think every individual financial institution has their own internal caps, and they also have their own, liquidity to worry about. And so I do think that you will see some of that for some institutions, but I think largely in part most people can handle this. I think the risk right now is, and why you're seeing some banks shut down, is just because of the lack of guidance, final guidance coming out. And really what it is this could be a $10 million unsecured loan on the books for an institution. And so that gets kind of scary for some institutions, especially smaller ones. So, I do think that the SBA, in good faith, will do everything to make sure that they honor these loans. And so I do think you will have some of that. I do think the Federal Reserve will buy some of them back, again, just to free up some liquidity so larger banks like Bank of America are able to continue offering these products because, it is, again, it is a value add to the community. The other thing I will say is, and I should have mentioned this in the previous one, the interesting thing here is the documentation that's required is not reliant on the financial institution. So largely, we are just a conduit to the SBA. My concern is for the business owner. That is why, the documentation that I've listed, any documentation that's on the SBA website, any documentation that we put on our website as we know it's available, these are key items for you to keep because the onus of proof is going to be on you all. And that's kind of different. Normally, the SBA makes sure that the credit union or the bank has all the documents, and we have guaranteed that we've reviewed those. In this situation, we don't necessarily even have to review them. The business owner is attesting to and is affirming to those on their application. So please make sure documentation is everything. Please, there's calculators up on the SBA website. There's everything that you can use, and we're trying to link things out as quickly as we possibly can. But please make sure that, again, I cannot stress documentation enough.
Great.
Wow. Thank you, and those are all the questions, and I want to start by thanking Brian.
I wish I had a lot more information to provide. I wish I could come through and say this is step one, this is step two, and this is step three. Unfortunately, this is a moving target for all of us. I'm happy to provide my email address or my phone number. Anyone in the room is welcome to give me a call, or you can funnel them through the town there. I'm happy to answer any questions as they can as they come up. But we are all learning very, very rapidly this new program. Like I said, the SBA normally takes about 2 years to come up with a new program, and this was rolled out in about 2 weeks. And hopefully on week 3 we'll have everything finalized.
Well, you were,
Brian, I have a question.
Oh, sure.
Michael, is Councilman Marinaro. Brian, thanks for your explanations. Just to reiterate, right now a lot of the banks are working on a reduced personnel because of the virus. If anyone in the business community needs help to fill out this application, will they be able to get in touch with the bank and have some of those issues resolved? That's question number one. Question number two, specifically how long, I know that you touched upon this already, how long after the application is completed and filed, will the funds be available? Will the business be using their funds to start paying salaries while the application is in process?
No, so those are 2 great questions. So one, I can't speak for other financial institutions. I can tell you that Hudson Valley is very proud of the fact that we have maintained all of our employees at this time, and we continue to work, to reassign and help out where they can. So, for example, as most of you know, our branch lobbies have been closed, and we are working on a drive-through only basis. But most of those branch employees have been reassigned to other areas, such as our business lending area, to help with these applications. So there's definitely help if you need help filling anything out from our end. Again, I can't speak for other financial institutions, but I can tell you that from our end, we are more than happy to put you in contact with somebody. The form is on our website. I've looked at it. It's fairly simple to fill out. It does require some information, and we do need the business owner to fill it out only because there are some affirmations and attestations there that we obviously cannot do. We are working on a form that makes it an electronic signature, so it should be a lot quicker for those business owners. So once that application comes in, so now under the time frame, once that application comes in, it does take about at this point, it's taking us about 3 days to process. I'm hoping that window shortens. But it may be a little bit longer before it shortens. But I'm hoping by Friday we have that process down electronically where we can file directly with the SBA. And then within 5 days, I have to have you sign your loan documents and fund that loan. So I do not believe.
Technical difficulty here.
from the time the application is received. So I'm very hopeful I can process these as quickly as possible so that it doesn't have to come out of your own pocket.
Thank you.
Right.
And that 5-year requirement, by the way, is an SBA requirement. So those loans have to fund. I did hear on the call yesterday with the SBA that somebody asked, well, a business owner just wants to get their approval and they do not want to fund the loan. They just want to have that money out there just in case they need it. And the direct answer from the SBA director to that question was, this money is not in case of emergency. This money is to be used to get people back to work. So I just want to make that point very clear, that people should be working, we should be paying them and getting them back into the workforce or maintaining them in the workforce.
Councilman Cassidy, anything?
Yeah, I got just two regards to that. So is the money that you're going to give for salaries, and we laid these people off, say the person was laid off 3 weeks ago, and now they applied for unemployment. Are we supposed to back pay them for the past 2 weeks?
No. Well, my understanding from yesterday, again, is that this is not for the employee to double dip. So they would have to come back to work, because you can bring them back to work. So they have to come back to work, cancel out their unemployment, and then you would start paying them again.
Okay. And then the second question is, I say you got 10 employees now, and you have to maintain them until December 31st. What happens if they find a new job and move to another location, say November? What happens at that point?
I think that, again, my guess is, and I don't have the final answer on this because it would have to come from the SBA, but my guess is, again, if you maintain that documentation, similar to the question about, if someone had quit at the end of the year or quit in January and you had year-end payroll, I think as long as you maintain documentation that employee left on their own, free will, and whether it was for a better opportunity or they had to move, it is my understanding and my guess that those would still be honored but again, documentation is going to be key. I would keep the notice that the employee gives you. I would make sure that notice spells out specifically why they're leaving, and that, and make sure that, if there's any termination notice for cause, that you're at least hiring to replace that employee. So things like that. I would just be very cognizant of any type of employee movement. Just maintain your documentation of what happened, why it happened, and what you're doing in that regard. And you should be okay. What they're trying to avoid is you saying, well, I have 10 employees today, I can only afford to pay 7, so I'm laying 3 people off. That's really the avoidance, to make it very simple.
Okay, thank you.
And then, as I understand it, you were supposed to go live on Friday morning, and you got the actual package Thursday night, and you're already on version 3?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, we were supposed to go live Friday morning. The system for the SBA didn't even go live until about Friday at 4:30 p.m. But we are on our 3rd iteration of the SBA application, and we are understanding that number 3.4 is coming out today. So there's just they're learning as they go, and again, it's that 2-year compression into 2 weeks. So I can't fault the SBA. I don't want to throw ill towards anyone. It's a learning curve for all of us, and we're trying to get through it as best. It's a learning curve for business owners as well. I mean, there's a lot of people have never been through this. I was talking to a business owner just last week who opened his doors in 2009, right after the kind of the recession was open, and he's experienced nothing but good things in the last 9 or 10 to 11 years, and suddenly this happened. So this is a lot of firsts for all of us. But yeah, the SBA this is their 3rd application, and like I said, 3.1 and 3.4 is coming out today.
Everybody I see seems to be trying to do the right thing. So that's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the goodwill going on, and it's nice that, like Brian said, that the federal government did step up to put this loan program together. He said it a few times that usually something like this takes several years to implement correctly, and they did it in 2 weeks, and there's a lot of bugs to be worked out, but they are going through it. So like we said in the beginning, please don't waste any time. Please try to apply as soon as you can. They have a huge amount of activity, and the quicker you can do your application, the quicker you can receive your funds. So any other final words or tips that you suggest, Brian?
No, here's what I will tell you all. I'll provide my email address. I get about 100 emails a day, so bear with me if I don't respond to you right away. I will try and get through them. But if anyone needs to email me or has any further questions, or you want to be put on the list when we're ready to accept applications for members or for people who aren't current members, I'll be happy to reach out to you. So my email address is WALD as in dog, and then B for Brian, at hvfcu.org. We haven't removed the F yet from our email address, but hvfcu.org.
That's great. And so anybody out there, his name is Brian Waldron, and he is the Chief Loan Officer of Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union. And we appreciate him coming and joining with us today, answering all our questions and providing us great answers. Brian, thank you so very much.
Well, thanks for having me, and I apologize I don't have all the, 100% of the details, but I'll do my best to get them out as I can.
Thank you. And Ed, was there any other comments from our economic director or our council members?
Oh, just thanking Brian again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Nick, one last comment. Last week, while the process was getting started, two businesses in the community reached out. Their concerns was to sign up for this program, and a lot of their comments were, it's on a first come, first basis. From what I heard today, I think that everybody will be taken care of. So Brian, this first time, first basis kind of, it's really not what's out there, is it?
No, I mean, I think once the funds are gone, I think they'll go out, renew, and get an additional $250 billion. And just seeing how the government's working through this process, I do not believe they're going to let anyone, go on this. I think they're going to try and help out as many small businesses. I mean, you can see the economic devastation as you drive. I drove into the office today, and you can see it. The doors closed, lights off. It's hard to see. And so I think the government is stepping up as best they can, and as quickly as they can, trying to get this out and rolling. So I don't believe they'll let small businesses fail just for the sake of them failing. I do believe they're all going to come together, and we're going to see some really goodwill through this process. So get your application in, because I don't have a crystal ball. I can't promise anything. At least get the application prepared and get the documentation ready so that when your financial institution is accepting or you find one that can help you, that you can send that in to them and be prepared for it, because it really is about getting an SBA approval number, which is happening very quickly. But like I said, the initial projections were that the $350 billion was going to be gone by Sunday afternoon. And we're only at $150 billion today. Not only, that's a very large number, don't get me wrong. So, we're just over a third of the way through the funds now, the first set of funds, and I do think they'll have a renewal of $250 billion. I think it was Marco Rubio that's already asked for that.
So that's a reassuring message to the business community.
Yeah.
So that,
and the SBA director said the same thing, that she wholeheartedly believes, and I don't want to quote her, but she wholeheartedly believes that the government will come together and get more funds.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you all very much for joining us. And if anybody needs to watch this again, it will be posted on our Channel 22 for the Cablevision subscribers, and on our East Fishkill YouTube channel, and we'll post it also on our website. And please, if you have any questions, call any of the board members, or please call Brian at Hudson Valley Credit Union, and he will do to help whatever he can. So thank you all very much for joining us. Please stay safe and healthy, everyone, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.